Okay. Ajnanatimirandasya Gyananjana-shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah Gurave Gurachandraya Radhikaya Tadale Krishnaya Krishna Bhaktaya Tadbhaktaya Namo Namah Panchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyavacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavibhyo Namo Namah Anantalilamaya Vigrahaya Mavadivichya Sundaraya Tasmai Mahaprema Rasa Pradaya Chaitanya Chandraya Namo Namaste Nityananda Namastubhyam Premananda Pradaya Kalokalmashanashaya Janopataye Namaha Ajanalambita Rujo Kanakavadato Sankirtanaya Kapitaro Kamalaya Taraksha Vishambaro Rujavaro Jagadama Palo Mande Jagatpriya Karo Karunavataro Kanakajala Dagatro Nilvashana Janetro Mragamadavaravalo Malati Kundamalo Tarala Taruna Vesha Nilapitambaresha Smarani Vritani Kunje Radhika Krishna Chandra Tavaivasmi Nadivami Tvayavina Uti Vigyaya Radhe Tvam Charanantike Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare. First of all, my limited Dandavad pranams to Lotus feet of Shiva Gurudev, Nitya Krishna Vishnupada Sutra Sata Shishima Bhaktivedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj, Aurupanuga Gaudiya Guru Varga, my Shiksha Guru Sam Vishnupada Sutra Sata Shishima Bhaktivedanta Madhusudan Goswami Maharaj. Also, dear devotees and guests here in Radha-Govinda Gaudiya Mat for the Sunday program. Dandavad Pranam, also those devotees and friends who are watching us online. So, we were discussing the glories of great Vaishnavas, so Param Gurudev Shishimad Bhakti Pragyana Keshava Goswami Maharaj, Shiva Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Prabhupada, Shiva Radha-Govinda Maharaj. Then we resumed hearing Srimad Bhagavatam as we started hearing in Trinidad. So, yesterday we heard Narada Vyasa Samvat, the conversation between Vyasadeva, the compiler of the Vedas, and Narada Muni. So, Srimad Bhagavatam discloses the pastimes of different avatars of the Lord, and in the first 9 cantos there are so many teachings concerning the activities of the great devotees of those avatars. And then finally, the sweetest narrations of the 10th canto come. Sweetest narrations of Krishna Lila, that is the greatest treasure of Srimad Bhagavatam. That is what Vyasadeva was not, how to say, mature enough to meditate upon. So we heard yesterday how Narada Muni came to him and bestowed his causeless mercy so that Vyasadeva could realize Srimad Bhagavatam, the essence of Srimad Bhagavatam within his heart. But Srila Gurudev was saying, before meditating on the 10th canto, we have to become like Dhruva, become like Prahlad, become like those great devotees. We have to imbibe their qualities, we have to glorify their characteristics and pray so that their qualities appear in our hearts. So today we'll hear the story of Dhruva Maharaj, Dhruva Charitra. So Dhruva means strong, stern, constant, unwavering. So Dhruva's meditation called Supreme Lord was like this. He was unwavering in his service. So when the Supreme Lord was creating all the Prajapatis, all the living entities who were helping him, looking after the universe, starting from Brahma, the creator, and he created Manus, those leaders of the mankind for each Manvantara. So the first one was Swayambhuva Manu. Swayambhuva Manu and his wife Shatarupa had two sons, Priyavrata and Uttanapad. So Priyavrata Maharaj has a separate story. He divided the earth to those meridians, and he divided the islands of our planet, and also introduced religious principles. But Uttanapad was also a great emperor, and he had two queens, Suniti and Suruchi. So the latter, Suruchi, was dearer to him. And Suruchi had a son called Uttam, and Suniti had a son called Dhruva. So once Maharaj Uttanapad was having Uttam, his junior son, on his lap, and was patting him. And Suniti's son Dhruva was also trying to climb on the lap of Uttanapad, but the king was not very much welcoming because he was partial. He was partial to Suruchi. And Suniti, he was not even acknowledging, like she was on the level of maidservant or even less than that. So he was very partial. But naturally, he had some love for Dhruva, for sure. But in the presence of Suruchi, he wanted to give preference to Uttam, junior son, and son of Suruchi. So he was acting in that way so that she is pleased. So Suruchi could understand that, and because she was very envious of her stepson Dhruva, when she took undue advantage of her husband's favoritism. And displaying her weakness, partiality also, the proud Suruchi started speaking to Dhruva. She said, "Oh, my dear Dhruva, actually you don't deserve to sit upon the throne, the king's lap. Of course, you're the king's son, but because you're not born from my womb, you're not qualified to sit upon your father's lap. So you may be unaware of the distinction between your father's two queens, but let me assure you that in order to gain qualification to sit on your father's lap, you have to go and meditate on Lord Narayana, so that next lifetime you will gain a privilege to be born from my womb, and then you will be able to sit on your father's lap like this." So these words were so piercing to the heart of Dhruva, and he was feeling as if a hissing snake which had been hit by a stick, so you can see how much anger is within the heart of the snake, and his kshatriya nature started manifesting like this. So he started trembling, his lower lip started trembling like this, and he was breathing heavily because of great rage. So harsh words are sometimes even more piercing than different types of weapons to the heart that we have to tolerate. So then he went to Suniti, his mother, and Suniti saw her son crying grievously. She didn't know what had happened. But then some servants came to Suniti and they told what had happened. So after hearing the story, then Suniti, her face went pale, and she was very, very worried, and she burst with tears. And anyway, she found some composure, and she was holding her son Dhruva, and she started giving him some solace. "Oh, my dear Dhruva, you should not wish to harm others, because anyone who inflicts pain upon another person ends up suffering himself." So she was trying to appease him in this way. Please don't wish anyone something which you don't want from them for you. So in that way, you will be able to be peaceful. Otherwise, you will not be peaceful. And what to do? You have to accept whatever Suruchi, your stepmother, said is actually true, because your father is partial. He holds me on the level of a maidservant or even lower than that. And I know it's very unpalatable for you to hear, but whatever your stepmother said was true, so you have to accept. Tatte nukampam susamekshamanam bhujana evatma kritam vipakam pridvak vivir dan namaste jiver mukti padesa dayavak. So Gurudev was teaching us how to tolerate the eventualities of life. If something bad comes to you according to the karma, then you have to just accept without any anger or resentment. So how to curb your anger, how to curb your resentment, just accept, and that's it. Please know that whatever happens to you happens because of your own former activities. That satisfied. And finally, his mother Suniji said that, oh, the Supreme Lord is good, equally good to everyone, and especially is good to his devotees. And you know, I know that you are his devotee, so you have to go to the forest and one-pointedly meditate on the Lord, because the Lord is the source of all attainments. He will give you fulfillment of all of your desires. So, okay. I remember how Shiva Gurudev, when Gopinath Bhavan was being built, and there was no roof. Instead of roof, there were some, pieces of matter, and the monkeys were playing on that. So Gurudev said, don't look at the monkeys. So let me tell you now, don't look at the leaves and the propellers, So here, try to hear, okay? Mics, leaves, propellers. So, okay. Today I was so happy. For 1 hour, electricity was disconnected. I felt like in Middle Ages. Very good. No electricity, no problem. Okay, so Dhruva was still full of anger and resentment, although his mother was trying to appease him. But mother gave him a good advice. Oh, my son, please go to the forest because the Supreme Personality of God and Narayana is staying there. And he is the center of all the, he can fulfill anyone's desire, the center of everyone's attention, so he'll be able to fulfill everyone's desire. So he went to the forest, but then Narada, the all-knowing sage, he knew about Dhruva's intention, and he came, manifested himself in front of the boy, and finally touched him on the head with his all-auspicious hand and said, oh, what wonderful is the Kshatriya spirit. Kshatriya spirit. Kshatriyas, they cannot tolerate, and Narada admitted that. Kshatriyas cannot tolerate any challenge like this. They cannot tolerate any type of offense or, partiality to some other person rather than them. So that was the young Kshatriya spirit. I forgot to say that Dhruva was just 5-year-old boy. So today we'll hear something more. I know most of you have heard this story, but today we'll be discussing the inner imports of this story. Very, very important. That's why I'm humbly asking for your kind attention. So we have to hear the teachings of this story. So then Narada was trying to petition the boy. He said, my dear Dhruva, actually you're just a mere boy and you're still attached to your playthings. So since children, they have no conception of honor and dishonor, then you just, because of your Kshatriya spirit, out of anger and resentment, you want to go to the forest and have your desires fulfilled by the Lord. But actually you should not be disturbed. You should understand that all these material dualities are just because of the activities of the material energy of the Lord, the deluding energy, Maya of the Lord. So sometimes it's cold, sometimes it's hot, sometimes we are praised, next day we're humiliated. So mature transcendentalists, attention, mature transcendentalists, they're always above those things, the honor and dishonor, humiliation and praise. They don't really pay attention to those phenomena. So Narada said, my opinion, it is not possible for an ordinary man, or what to speak of a child, to engage in Ashtanga Yoga and meditate on the Supreme Lord. We should remember what age was then, Satya Yuga. And what was the method of attainment perfection in Satya Yuga? Meditation. Meditation. So there was no sin, and masses of great devotees were in the forests meditating in the Supreme Lord in the process of dhyana yoga, meditative yoga, and they were massively going to Vaikuntha. So that was the process. Now we know Harinama Sankirtan. You cannot go to the forest now. There will be no facilities. There were no pious kings for hunting and killing the animals to prevent you being killed, eaten by some snakes, tigers, etc. So Narada is saying even great yogis, they failed with their attempts of achievement of perfection. So, and you should try to be satisfied in whatever condition you are, my boy. And thus you will be able to cross the ocean of nescience, Narada said. But then Dhruva, after hearing Narada's instructions, said, oh, certainly great sage, you've given a very, very good directions, but due to my being covered with ignorance, unfortunately I cannot follow these instructions. This philosophy cannot really touch my heart. And I was born in Kshatriya family, so Kshatriya nature is within my blood. So I really want to occupy the position which is higher than the position I'm now in. You know, I really want to get the throne of my father. So that's why I want to be in the line of my father, my grandfather. You know, grandfather is who? Swayambhuva Manu. And great-grandfather is who? Brahma. So the mother of Dhruva, Suniti, he said that, oh, you should go to Lord Narayana because he is the direct instructor of your great-grandfather Brahma. So you have to go because he had bestowed great mercy upon your great-grandfather or a dynasty. So definitely the Supreme Lord, who is actually a great-grandfather, will bestow his mercy upon you. So then after Narada saw the stamina and the resolute purpose of Dhruva, young boy, then Narada was impressed and he said, my dear boy, I wish you all good fortune. So you should go to Madhuvan. Madhuvan is one of the 12 forests of Vrajamandala, greatest place in the whole creation, greatest place among all the holy places of India nowadays, and the highest place of all the spiritual abodes, spiritual sky, higher than Vaikuntha planets, the highest of them, even higher than Ayodhya, is called Goloka Vrindavan. Now, Goloka Vrindavan has 4 prakoshts, 4, sections. So, Dwaraka, Mathura, Goloka, Aishwarya, predominated by one reverence, and finally Vraja. So in Vraja, nobody knows that Krishna is God. But anyway, any Vaishnava who's meditating in Vraj can achieve his particular goal. So many Vaishnavas, they worship Lord Narayan also. In Sri Sampradaya, they meditate in the temple Rangaji, and they go to Vaikuntha. But we don't want to go. But certainly Dhruva is Vaikuntha Bhakta. Yeah. But we don't pay attention that he is worshipping Lakshmi Narayan. We see what Gurudev meant by saying, be like Dhruva. What does it mean? Dhruva means, remember, it means one-pointedness. It means strength. It means resoluteness in purpose. So we have to be like this. Gurudev was teaching us, do or die. That is called Sharanagati. So what is Dhruva demonstrating here in this Leela? One-pointed surrender. One-pointed surrender. That's what Dhruva is demonstrating. He is one-pointedly surrendered to the Supreme Lord. He doesn't want anything else. But his desire, you see, was still material. That is why our Guru Parampara, Srila Sanatana Goswami, when he manifested the gradation of devotees in Brihad Bhagavatamrita, you see, who is there? Gyani Bhakta, Prahlad, Gyani Bhakta. He had full knowledge of the Supreme Lord. Then Prema Bhakta, Hanuman. Shuddha Bhakta, Ambarish Maharaj. Prema Parabhaktas, Pandavas. Prematura Bhakta, Uddhava. And the Brijavasis, especially Braja Gopi, is even higher than that. But the introductory level is Dhruva Maharaj. He is not actually included within the 5. He is like preliminary, because his mood is Sakama Bhakti, Sakama. So Bhakti can be of 2 kinds, Sakama and Nishkama. Sakama means, Kama means material desires, so Sa means with material desires. So first Dhruva wanted to achieve the kingdom of his father. Then, we will hear later, he regretted so much, But Nishkama will come after. First you have to regret, repent, then you have to change your desires from Sakama to Nishkama. But everything comes gradual. So we will see also the gradation of Dhruva's heart, changes of Dhruva's heart within this story. So Narada finally instructed Dhruva to go to Madhuvan. And Narada said, only because you will be in Madhuvan, you will be so much purified. So when we visit Madhuvan, most of you remember, we visit Dhruva Tila, the hillock on which Dhruva was meditating. And finally he got darshan of the Supreme Lord Narayan, just in that place, ages and ages ago, in Satya Yuga. So Narada said, my dear boy, all good fortune to you, please go to Madhuvan and engage in Ashtanga Yoga. By meditating in the process of Ashtanga Yoga, will gradually master all the life air, inhaling, exhaling, your mind, your senses. So, some of you practiced pranayama, that process stabilizes mind and senses completely and makes you progress significantly. So that was the process in Satya Yuga. So then Narada said, the Supreme Lord is so wonderful. His smiling face is so beautiful. His attire is so attractive. His composure is dark rain cloud and yellow pitambara across his shoulder. And he is ever youthful. His lips are pinkish. His eyes are like lotus flowers reaching his ears, like very wonderfully. Narada Muni described the Supreme Lord, and real yogis meditate upon the lotus feet of the Lord, and all the great personalities always meditate on him. So you have to chant this mantra. Listen, I will give you this mantra. And Narada gave Dhruva a mantra, a 12-syllable mantra. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, like this. But when we devotees of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, devotees of Radha-Govinda, we hear Vasudevaya, we remember Nandanandan Krishna, because he's actually Vasudeva. And Devaki, another name of Yashoda. So that's why when we hear Vasudevaya, we at once remember Krishna. In the same Brihad Bhagavatamrita, Gopakumar was immediately seeing his Madana Gopal, his Krishna, when he saw Narayan, when he saw Krishna in Dwaraka, when he saw the Lord in many other abodes. So this mantra Dhruva received, and he started worshipping this mantra, meditating on this mantra, and he started performing very, very severe austerities. So he arrived in Madhuvan, bathed in Yamuna, and fasted that night. And after he started worshipping Supreme Lord exactly in that same way as Narada told him, he was sitting within lotus posture, he controlled all his breath, and for the first month he ate only fruits and berries every 3 days. Otherwise he was fasting. And every 3rd day, during 1 month, he was eating fruits and berries. During the 2nd month, every 6 days, he was eating just dry leaves and grass every 6 days, otherwise fasting. So every 3rd month, on the 3rd month, he is drinking water every 9 days only, every 9 days. And during the 4th month, he was inhaling only every 12 days. So finally he mastered all the movements of his live air. And since he was meditating on the Supreme Lord so closely, then the qualities of the Supreme Lord manifested in him. Not that he was an impersonalist. No, not at all. He was a devotee. That's why he became as heavy as the Supreme Lord himself. So the Supreme Lord is the heaviest of the heaviest. And therefore his pure devotee also became heaviest of the heaviest. But he was standing on earth and his toe was just very firmly touching the earth. That's why the pressure of his big toe pushed down half of the earth. So the earth became like, his toe was so heavy that it really penetrated the depth of half of the earth. So just an elephant standing on a boat, any movement that elephant makes, the boat immediately starts rocking, inevitably. So Dhruva, being pure devotee, obtained really, those quality of heaviness of the Supreme Lord. That's why all the demigods started suffocating, because the air became so much condensed. They couldn't really breathe. So they complained to the Supreme Lord, "Oh, the Supreme Lord Narayan, please tell us what is going on." And smiling, the Supreme Lord answered, "Oh, my pure devotee, Dhruva Maharaja, is meditating, you see. So, but don't be disturbed, very soon I will visit him and fulfill his desire." So being reassured of the Supreme Lord, the demigods offered their obeisances, and then finally the Supreme Lord came to his pure devotee Dhruva on the back of Garuda. He descended from spiritual world, and the effulgent form of the Lord was within Dhruva's heart all the time. He was meditating on the Lord in his heart. But all of a sudden, meditation broke. So what happened? Well, hereafter, kirtan pause. Musical pause, one kirtan. If anyone wants to sing, maybe some singers are here today. Otherwise, Sujan Prabhu can sing. Or you please appoint another singer so that attention of the audience become a bit refreshed. Okay, so you want to sing or anyone else? My request only, don't be silent. We're practicing Harinam and loud chanting rather than silence. Okay, Hare Krishna. Who will sing? Okay, thank you.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare
Nitai Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bol. Shri Dhruva Maharaja ki jai. So, all of a sudden, the transcendental image of Lord Narayana disappeared from Dhruva's heart. And he was wondering, what is going on? But he saw the Lord right in front of him, right in front of him. When he opened his eyes, he saw the Supreme Lord Narayana right in front of him. So he was witnessing the transcendental beauty of Lord Narayana, and with unblinking eyes, he was drinking the Lord's beauty. And he was, with his mouth, he was as if kissing his lotus feet, and as if embracing him with his arms. So he could not really check himself. He was experiencing all types of ecstatic emotions. Although Dhruva was a very small child, he experienced a desire to offer some prayers to the Lord, but he was quite ignorant, naturally ignorant, like a small child. He could not glorify the Lord properly. So Lord Narayana touched him with his transcendental conch shell, and then Narada started offering his wonderful prayers. So we'll hear them now. They're full of deep meanings. Dhruva vacha yanta pravishya mama vacha imam prasuktam sanjivayatya kila shakti dhara swadhamna anyamscha hasta charana shravana tvagadyam pranan namo bhagavate purushaya tubhyam. O Purusha, O Supreme Lord, you're all powerful. You have entered within me, and you have enlivened my sleeping senses, my hands, legs, ears, touch sensation, life force, and especially my power of speech. So I want to offer my respectful obeisances to you. So, without the power of the Lord, each and every one of us is like walking corpse. We're not able to do anything, and we're quite ignorant. We're like sleeping, you know. A sleeping person is, well, we understand he's resting, but it's actually quite useless. A sleeping person cannot do anything, like half dead. So we're like this, you know, the living soul in this world. That's why Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur is singing, Jeev Jago, Gaura Chandra Bole. Jiva, wake up, all Jivas, sleeping souls. So immediately after the Lord comes into our life, in the form of the holy name, as it's written in your poster, just in front of the entrance, Kale Kale Nama Rupa Krishna Avatar. In this age, the avatar of Krishna is the supreme, the name, the holy name. So we come in touch with the holy name in that same way Dhruva came in touch with the Supreme Lord and saw him personally, and he continued his prayers. Ekastvameva Bhagavan Nidamatma Shaktya Maya Kyayor Gunaya Mahadadya Shesham Srishtvam Vishya Purushastada Sadguneshu Naneva Darushu Vibhavu Savatvatsi. Now, you're the Supreme Lord, and by your different energies, you are ruling the spiritual and material worlds both. You create the total sum of material energy, and you manifested the super soul in everyone's heart. So you create the varieties of all manifestations, and just as fire entering into different shapes burns everything equally. So this tattva jnana, this knowledge of established truth, immediately was established in his heart. Although being a 5-year-old child, he started speaking completely maturely and very melodiously. All these were actually pronounced by him with great poetical decorations. And so Lord Brahma and Shiva fully surrendered to you. So you're the only shelter of those persons who desire liberation. That's why again and again I'm worshipping your lotus feet. So, but he admitted that he wanted to fulfill some material desire. And he says, Nonam vimushta matayastava mayayate yetram bhavapya vimokshanam anya hetu archanti kalpapatarun guna papopa bhogyam ichanti yatsparasham ja nirajet vidrinnam. Oh, materialistic persons are worshipping you for some material cause. They want to gain something from you. They want some material possessions deluded by your material energy. So you are desiratory, and you are able to fulfill their greatest desire, our actual greatest desire. Remember, in the very beginning of ISKCON, George Harrison said, everybody is looking for Krishna. They don't know that. They don't know, or they know about that, but anyway, your servants, Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami Pad said, knowingly or unknowingly. So that's the greatest treasure. So when we approach the richest person, we can ask for 1 million, but instead we ask for some insignificant things. And those people, they strive for sense enjoyment. And sense enjoyment is available either in hellish planets. In hellish planets, you will gain some sense enjoyment, When they torture you, when you boil you, when they piece you, finally they will give you some release. Okay, take rest. Sometime relax. So that's material life also. Some enjoyment is there. So then Dhruva Maharaj here is saying about Brahman. So those people who are not mad after sense enjoyment, they want to achieve liberation, moksha. But they don't take shelter of the Lord's lotus feet. That's their problem. That's what Dhruva is saying here. Ya nirvrittistanu tava pada padma dhyana bhavaj janakatha shravane navasyat sa brahmani sva mahimanya pinatha mabhut kim tvam takasi lalitat patatam vimanat. Transcendental bliss derives from meditating upon your lotus feet, or hearing your glories from pure devotees. Is so unlimited that it's far beyond Brahmananda, the happiness of impersonal liberation. So Brahmananda is existing, and Brahmananda gives some bliss, but it's quite meager, quite insignificant comparing to the great joy of rasa, of transcendental experience of the relationship with the Supreme Lord. You can see a very, very simple example. A simple person comes to the temple, like today. Some of you are quite new, probably, but you know the value of the temple, the value of the deities, and you experience some relationship with the deity. Yes, although being on quite beginning stage of devotion already, some rasa is there, some taste. So that is already much, much, much higher, millions times actually, higher than the bliss of impersonal liberation. Srila Rupa Goswami in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu said one thing. He said, Brahmanda bhavet esha chet paradha guni krita naiti bhakti sukham audhe param realization. Understand, impersonal feature, what great jnanis, munis, yogis achieve. If we multiply days, okay, in 1 year there are 360 days. And 1 day is, 4,320,000,000 divided by, multiplied by 2, that's with the night, 8,640,000,000 years. So now multiplied by 360, and that's just 1 year, and 100 years like this. So this time, this amount of times, the happiness of bhakti, of the lotus feet of Bhagavan, is higher than this impersonal liberation. Even 1 speck of this impersonal liberation, even 1 speck of happiness, of association with Bhagavan in this bhakti rasa is higher than millions of those feelings of impersonal liberation, oneness with the Supreme Soul. Dhruva Maharaj is saying here about this. Also remember one verse, before Krishna's birth, Brahma and other demigods were praying to the Supreme Lord, to Krishna, I'm sorry, they were praying to Krishna within the womb. So there's one verse, actually yesterday we're discussing, that's the verse of Narada Muni. Yesterday we were mentioning, Narada Muni said to Vyasa, he said, Nashkarmame Pyachuta Bhava Varjitam Nashobhate Gyanam Alam Niranjitam. Yeah, Nashkarmame Apyachuta Bhava Varjitam. Yeah. Even though you are absorbed in Brahman, Naishkarmya, you're not interested in dharma, you're not interested in karma. You're interested in mukti, liberation, in personal liberation. You're always absorbed in mukti. No, but it's nashobhate, it doesn't look nice. Because nacharpitam, you're not surrendered to the Supreme Lord. Nashkarmanya pichita bhava varjitam nashobhate gyanam alam niranjana. Haruya nashobhate gyanam alam niranjana. Because there's no devotion to your lotus feet, that's why it doesn't look nice. So, in the next verse, in the next prayer, Dhruva is saying, Tena smarantya titaram priyameshamartyam ye chanvada sutta subhit krita vittatara yadvakjanaba bhavadiya padaravinda so bhavadam hridayeshu krita prasanga. So the main important thing in life is to obtain association with a pure devotee. If a person happens to associate with a devotee whose heart always hankers after your lotus feet, seeing always the fragrance is never attached to material body, never more attached to material body, relationship, offspring, friends, home, wealth, wife, and all other things. Okay, so my friends, you're today in very dangerous position. You came for association. We're not really, how to say, object of association. We're just like postmen, representatives of very, very good association. If you really want, we can provide that great, nice association for you in Vrindavan with great devotees. So what will happen after you associate with a great devotee? Dhruva Maharaj says that you'll become unattached to everything material. You'll become unattached. It's not that you reject. It's not that you say, oh, you're all, false. No. You'll say, you're good, but just I will try to connect you with Krishna. Then you'll be really, really happy. But you will not consider those objects, your family, your business, your many, many other things, as your possession. This is mine. This is the cause of bondage, aham mameti. This mentality that I'm the possessor and this is mine. So this is a great, great mistake, which leads us to false self-identification, and which is the cause of unhappiness. Then, in this world, oh my Lord, I know there are so many species of life, Dhruva Maharaj continues, in many, many, many bodies, but they're all within the power of your material energy. And sometimes they're manifest, sometimes non-manifest. When they live again and again and again, rotating in the circle of samsara, they enter Lord Vishnu's transcendental body again and then come out again, like this. So finally, it will never end, it will continue. But finally, at the end, Garbhodakasha Vishnu dissolves everything into his belly, and everything comes to an end. So My Lord, you're internally liberated, your existence is situated in pure goodness, your existence is super soul without change, and I'm begging again and again so that I can be able to associate with you life after life amongst your pure devotees again and again. Dhruva Maharaja is praying like this. So we can see here he glorifies pure devotion. For those who abides in your devotional service with no other desire, worshipping your lotus feet is better than becoming king and lording it over the kingdom. This is the benediction of worshipping your lotus feet. So then Lord Narayan appreciated the prayers of his little devotee, Dhruva. So the Lord said, my dear Dhruva, I know the desire that is within your heart. You wanted the kingdom of your father, so bestow the benediction upon you. You'll be ruling the earth for 36,000 years. That was another age. And 1,000 years was like 1 year. So probably that was like 36 years, and no more. The estimation right now. But the Lord bestowed a very special abode for Dhruva. He gave him a very special planet, which name was Dhruva. So that Dhruva is actually a spiritual planet. Although situated within this universe, it's actually like Vaikuntha. It's a Vaikuntha planet, but it's within this universe. So from cosmology we know, from the 5th canto is described, it said that all the other planets are like within a chandelier. This Dhruva is not moving. The sun is moving around Mount Sumeru, in cosmology it said. But all the other luminaries planets, they, connected with some lines to the Dhruva, and Dhruva is in the center. So it's actually like the pivot, and like the center of the chandelier, like a big chandelier, you can imagine. But that planet is spiritual. And when the dissolution of this material universe happens, this material world, then Dhruva is not destroyed. So although Dhruva was not desiring, and as we see in his prayers, he was not desirous of obtaining anything material ultimately. So the Lord bestowed him that benediction. So Dhruva was happy and simultaneously quite disappointed. When he was walking back home, he was repenting, and he was like cursing himself. You see, oh, just see what I have done. I approached the lotus feet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who can award his loving service to liberate one from the circle of birth and death. But out of foolishness, I asked for something which is perishable. So I look like a poor person who was asking from a rich person instead of $1 million or something else. I asked for just some insignificant grains of rice, broken grains of rice, I asked. Or they say sometimes broken glass, you know, some pieces of broken glass. So Dhruva knew that the Lord gave him benediction that finally he would return to Vaikuntha. He was happy, he was confident, but simultaneously was repentant and unhappy. Silly me, what was I asking about? Now I have to live these 36,000 years within the material world. Meanwhile, a messenger came to King Uttanapad. Oh, by the way, the meaning of Uttanapad, you know? Uttanapad means one whose legs are up. Uttanapad. Pada means legs, and Uttana means up. Because when the jiva, embodied living being, is born within this world, first head comes first, forward. So everything upside down. So what are the teachings about Uttanapad? What mistakes he really committed? So Uttanapad, first of all, he was not focused. One has to be focused on the Supreme Truth. And Uttanapad became focused on one of his wives, Suruchi. Actually, the meaning of Suruchi means having big attachment to material enjoyment. Su ruchi, big attachment. And su niti, niti means like good behavior. Su niti means good behavior. So mother of Dhruva, Su Niti, directed him to the forest to meditate on Lord Narayan. Then he met Narada Muni as a result. So his mother, like, Vatma Pradarshaka Guru, she showed him the path, very nice path. So, but Uttanapad, whose head was downwards and legs upwards, made a wrong choice and he became attached to Suruchi, meaning he also developed great ruchi for his materialistic wife. So she gave him bad advice. So Suruchi, as a result, started overpowering Uttanapada's thoughts, and he couldn't help but he was thinking of Suruchi. And another teaching, he abandoned his loving people. His son Dhruva, who was so much loving him, and Suniti was actually his great well-wisher. So Uttanapada abandoned, they devoted and unconditionally surrendered to him Suniti and chose Suruchi, who was younger and more beautiful. And the king, another teaching, very good teaching for those who are in position of kings or let's say managers, they should not be partial. They have to be equal to all. As the Supreme Lord, certainly equal to all. But he gives preference to his devotees, the Lord. So the leader of the mankind, Naresh means king or manager, has to be equal to all. Certainly if someone is a devotee, he gives some preference, maybe. But equally disposed to everyone, escaping favoritism. So that is the teaching about Uttanapad. So that Uttanapad, he considered, oh, my son is coming back, and I was so unchaste towards him. Actually, because of my wife's harsh words, he was so despondent, and he was directed to the forest by his mother. So they met him very gorgeously on a palanquin. They met Dhruva Maharaj so nicely. So Dhruva Maharaj offered obeisances to his father and returned to the king. And then Uttama and Dhruva embraced, two brothers embraced, and their bodies stood on end. So much ecstatic meeting. But when the Lord was giving blessings to Dhruva, he gave him something, he told him something about the future. He said, very soon, your brother Uttam will be killed. So the Lord wanted, to give the results of Uttama's activities by killing him. So Dhruva was not happy by hearing that news, because he was wanting something bad for his brother. So as a result, when Uttam went hunting, he was killed. And then Dhruva, he was killed by yakshas in the mountains, yakshas, those mystical beings. So Dhruva became very much enraged, and he chastised the yakshas. He was an expert charioteer and bowman. So he killed yakshas in great numbers in his wrath. So then, finally, his grandfather, Swayambhuva Manu, he stopped him. Oh, my great dear grandson, please stop these unnecessary atrocities. Actually, you're killing the innocent yakshas. You have to accept that that was the consequence of your brother's activities. So he himself was guilty. So please be appeased. Please stop fighting, because that causes irreligion. And you are exemplary devotee of the Lord, so your life is meant for exemplary behavior. That's why put your bow and arrows and stop this fight. But Dhruva was still not satisfied, and then Swayambhuva Manu started speaking more. And then finally Swayambhuva Manu said, actually, these yakshas are not killers of your brother, so you have to stop. So then Kuvera came and he learned that, okay, Dhruva's anger subsided, he stopped killing the yakshas. So then Kuvera came and what benedictions do you want? Then Dhruva replied, may I always have unflinching faith and constant remembrance of the Supreme Lord. In this way I will be very easily able to cross the ocean of nescience. Okay, so Kuvera was very, very pleased. He saw that Dhruva is not asking for any material benedictions. So he said, okay, so be it. May you be very devoted to the Lord. So finally, what is the end of the story? To cut the long story short, we'll make some conclusions now. So Dhruva Maharaj ruled the kingdom for that amount of years, 36,000 years according to the estimation of Satya Yuga. So finally, at the end of this rule, he handed the kingdom over to his son, and he considered his body, wives, children, friends, and everything else to be creations of illusory energy. Naturally, he retired to Badarikashram, and he was residing in Himalayas. So again, by bathing in the crystal clear waters of the river there, he sat and started meditating on his Archa Vigraha, on his deity. So then finally, the airship came, and the two great servitors of Lord Vishnu, Nanda and Sunanda, took Dhruva on the airplane and departed for Vaikuntha. Means he went to Dhruva Loka. He went to Dhruva Loka, special Vaikuntha. But well, seated on the airplane, all of a sudden Dhruva remembered his mother. I will not go to my mother. Mother should go with me, which proves that Dhruva was still Sakama Bhakta, remembering. Like when you totally dedicate yourself to the Lord, this is the creation of material energy. You give up your wife, give your possessions, give up your servants, give up all your wealth, give up everything, give up, kingdom, give up. Seated on the airplane, going to spiritual worlds, and on the way, Mommy, here you go. Mommy. So he was not Shuddha Bhakta, it was Sakam Bhakta still, that shows. That's why Srila Sanatana Goswami, actually by the mouth of Uttara Devi, Uttara is speaking in Brihad Bhagavatamrita, did not include Dhruva Maharaj within the gradation of Shuddha Bhaktas, although still we're hearing his story. We dedicated the whole Sunday program for Dhruva. Why? Because this is very, very nice preliminary narration for us, so that we can pray, to the Supreme Lord, to Lord Govinda here today. Oh, please give us so much Dhruva means steadiness, one-pointedness, as Dhruva Maharaj was having in his heart. Please give us ability to perform bhajan in that same way as Dhruva was performing. Are we able to stand like this? Our toe comes down up half the earth, and 1 month only on berries and fruits every 3rd day, 2nd month only on dry leaves, every 6th day, 3rd month on water, every 9th day, every 12 days inhaling, then okay, finally certainly was Satya Yuga, but now everything is on grains. If we don't eat, then we're finished, Ekadashi day, Nirjala Ekadashi, if you're hungry, you can get crazy. So better take some potatoes, okay, some fruits, cucumbers, whatever. So thus Dhruva passed through space. He saw all the planets one after another, and Narada went to Prachetas, and he was glorifying Dhruva in the sacrifice, and he was long time glorifying Dhruva, for a good reason. If he's so much Sakama Bhakta, why was Narada glorifying him for such a long time? And see, Maitreya is telling this story actually to Vidura in the 4th canto. So Maitreya is telling the blessing at the end, so let us listen. What is the fruit? Those who are listening very attentively, what fruit they will gain, let us listen. What is waiting for us as a result? Anyone who hears about the activities of Dhruva Maharaj can fulfill all desires, which desires? For wealth, fame, and increased duration of life. Okay, but that's not the main thing. Let's listen further. This narration is so auspicious that simply by hearing it, one can go to Dhruvalok after having concentrated all the results of his past sinful activities. Dhruvalok means, okay, Vaikunthalok means spiritual world. So we can go to spiritual world after deliberately hearing the story. That's most important. Anyone who hears this narration and tries with faith and devotion to understand Dhruva's pure character attains to pure devotional service. Indeed, anyone who hears this narration acquires exalted qualities, just like those possessed by Dhruva Maharaj. Oh, that is most important for us. So that's what Gurudev was meaning by saying, be like Dhruva. So about Prahlad we heard in Trinidad. So also very important, the qualities of Dhruva and Prahlad. Therefore, one should chant about the character and activities of Dhruva Maharaj every morning and evening with great care and attention in the association of devotees. So we follow this. But in the hearts of those who want some, wealth, position, etc., that will also come. But you should be careful. That is not permanent and it's not most important. So most important is the second part. The second part, become like Dhruva. So this is the methodological narration, methodological katha, the character of Dhruva. So we remember his features, and we're praying to his lotus feet, please bestow benediction upon us. Let us become pure devotees so that we can become pure devotees. Shri Dhruva Maharaja ki jai, Shri Narada Muni ki jai, Shri Rupanuga Gaudiya Guru Varga ki jai, Paramaraditam Gurupad Padma ki jai, Nitai Gaur Premanande, Hari Hari Bol. So sorry I took some more of your time, but now if you have any questions you can ask. We have a couple of minutes for that. Otherwise, please prepare for Arati, and today we'll also do Tulasi Parikrama at the end, and then certainly Prasadam. So, dear friends, we're inviting you to the rest of our programs. There will be 6 more classes. 2 of them will be here in the temple. On Thursday, 16th, there will be Ekadashi program here at 6 o'clock. And Sunday, there will be last program, Shivaratri, also Ekadashi fast, at 2:30. Just next week will be our last program. But there will be 4 house programs. Tomorrow, Monday is rest day. So Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday will be house programs. I don't know the names of devotees, except I know Tarun Prabhu's, that's Saturday, Tarun Krishna. So on the 14th is Shinli, on the 15th is Sharmila Didi, yes? And 17th LBI, what is that? So you can announce later in the mic. Vishnu Prabhu will announce in the mic. So thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Gaur Premanande.